Welcome to the first episode of Scoliosis Dialogues, an SRS podcast. I'm Paul Sponseller, the 2019 to 2020 SRS president. The Scoliosis Research Society is an international society that was founded in 1966. It's gained recognition as one of the world's premier spine societies and has maintained a commitment to research and education in spine deformity. Strict membership criteria ensure that the individual fellows support that commitment. We are currently up to more than 1,300 of the world's leading spine surgeons, researchers, physician assistants, orthotists, and nurses who are involved in research and treatment of spine deformities. In maintaining our commitment to that research and education, SRS is constantly looking for new ways to engage, educate, and inspire our members and others. We hope that this podcast will become one of the many tools available to further your knowledge of spine deformity. Thank you to the many members of various committees and the podcast task force members for the creation of this podcast. I'd like to now welcome Dr. Ron El-Hawawi, co-chair of the podcast task force, to give a brief explanation of what to expect from the beginning podcast episodes.
Thank you, Dr. Sponseller. Excited to help create the new podcast for the Scoliosis Research Society. This is in large part to Dr. Peter Newton and Dr. Marinus de Clover, who created the SRS Research Task Force and created an innovative dissemination of SRS research initiative. As part of that initiative, the idea of creating an SRS podcast in order to supplement the webinars and social media efforts that are already happening through SRS was born. I'd like to acknowledge my co-chair, Dr. Yan Wang, for helping with this task force. We will give a very brief background of how we chose the format and what to expect with our episodes. We will be doing an episode every couple of months. However, to kick things off after the short introductory episode, we will have a follow-up episode focusing on the SRS annual meeting live content as well as the self-paced pre-recorded content. We have several hosts and we have tried to diversify the group of surgeons and researchers that will be running these podcasts and hosting them. We've been able to strike a mix between pediatric and adult deformity expertise, orthopedic and neurosurgical expertise, female and male representation, international representation, basic scientists, and clinical representatives. On the pediatric side, our lead hosts are Dr. Ryan Fitzgerald and Dr. Jason Brooks. The other pediatric hosts are Dr. John Boris and Dr. Cynthia Nguyen. The adult lead hosts are Dr. Karaman Abelin-Genevois and Dr. Jeff Mullen, and the other adult hosts are Dr. Masoud Shafafi and Dr. Charlotte Fisher. We look forward to their episodes coming up over the next several weeks and months. Now for today, I take great pleasure in introducing the program committee chair for the SRS annual meeting, Dr. Lindsay Andras, as well as the education committee chair, Dr. Baron Launer, who will talk about the highlights of the annual meeting, both live and self-paced. They will talk briefly about some of the not-to-miss sessions that are coming up. And this will be followed up in a couple of weeks by a more detailed dialogue that goes into some of the nitty-gritty scientific portions of the annual meeting. Dr. Andras and Dr. Launer.
Thanks, Ron. We were all disappointed when we weren't able to get together in person in Phoenix, but we have, through the hard work of the SRS team, been able to pivot to this virtual platform. I think you'll find that it's easily accessible and that there's lots of great information, a lot of new exciting research that you can take back to your institution without the travel hassles. We have over 150 abstracts, as well as many narrated e-posters. We decided to focus on 5 clinical sessions that will be live. So that's going to kick off on Wednesday after the pre-meeting course, which Dr. Launer will talk more about. And we're going to start off with a QSVI session. We chose that because I think it's going to be beneficial for everyone, both our peds and adult team. And some of the interesting papers, Dr. Gumb's group is going to show you how the use of a clinical reviewer to identify patient safety indicators and more accurately code led to a decrease in the CMS payment reductions and a $3 to $4 million of cost savings. And then we'll also talk about making surgery more efficient, the role of dedicated teams in the OR. There's been some more advancements in terms of how beneficial that is and how you can use that to make your operating room flow more smoothly. And also preoperative multidisciplinary teams to really try to optimize the quality of work that's being done and do these complex surgeries in a safe manner. Thursday, we're going to have 2 concurrent sessions delving a little bit more into adolescent idiopathic scoliosis and then adult spinal deformity. And those are going to talk about both, refining the surgical indications and optimizing your patients for surgery, as well as tips and tricks for getting patients home quicker, healthier, and happier. On Friday, we have kind of a different session where we're going to talk about nerves and big curves. Again, we tried to kind of cross-pollinate the adult and spinal deformity papers so that hopefully it'll lead to some interesting discussions for all of our SRS members. We're going to start out by talking about neurologic injury and nerve monitoring. One of the highlights here is some of the validation of the spinal cord shape classification system that Lanke's group has previously introduced. So some more work on that to kind of tell you when to be on high alert to help keep you out of trouble. We'll also talk about managing these severe deformities and the role of halo traction and 3-column osteotomies. And then we'll transition into how these severe deformities impact pulmonary function and how what we do impacts that restrictive lung disease. That'll be hopefully a smooth transition into the Harrington lecture. Our Harrington lecture this year is going to be by Dr. Redding, the world famous pulmonologist, who's going to talk to us about the respiratory impact on early onset scoliosis, what we've accomplished in the past decades, and where we need to go. We're going to wrap up with the papers on Saturday. These will be both the basic science and clinical HIBS papers. And there are some really fantastic papers in that group talking about long-term follow-up of both operative and non-operative curves at 10 and 30 years. And then even new treatment options in the growing spine, ranging from a new spring distraction system to getting some more follow-up on tethers and what their role is. Another interesting paper talked about machine learning and how we may be able to leverage technology to plan better surgeries. I would like to thank my committee that has dealt with a lot of bumps in the road. This has been an interesting year for us, and we've faced a lot of different challenges. And I think the program that you can all enjoy will reflect all their hard work. The SRS administrative staff has been amazing through this and really had to add a whole new skill set of AV production and has done so really incredibly. And also Dr. Sponseller and the board who have continued to have insight and help to shape this into something that can be a real worldwide experience that everyone can enjoy. Look forward to seeing you virtually. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Lahner, who's going to talk to you about the pre-meeting course and half-day courses.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. I have to say it's been a pleasure to be the education chair this year and have had the honor of working with Dr. Sponseller, Dr. Andras, and our teams, and of course the SRS staff that work so hard in changing from a live to a virtual format. And I think this year's content will be really very impactful and very helpful. We're all learning a new way of learning, and I think this will be very effective this year. So I'd just like to tell you about what our committee is offering, and I'd like to thank Michael Chang and Greg White from Phoenix area who really helped in putting together an excellent pre-meeting course, which we will present to you Wednesday. And the good news is this will be accessible live to virtually all time zones around the world. And our course this year is on interdisciplinary care for optimizing outcomes in the patient with spinal deformity. We'll hear from non-surgeons on the pulmonary side, genetics, intensive care, the role of intensive care or not. We'll hear from surgeons from around the world about their own healthcare settings and how they're able to optimize care and what some of the challenges are. We'll hear from the corporate suite as well, from a CEO from a large private hospital in the Phoenix area. So I think you'll find this very informative. It's going to be a live session Wednesday, but we'll also have content that has been pre-recorded and is archived, which will be accessible to you. All of this content will be available through the end of the year. And we have an interactive format, including case discussions, debates, and didactic lectures, and plenty of time for discussion built into that. On Sunday, we'll have two concurrent half-day courses. One will be, I think, augmenting what we discuss and bring forth in the pre-meeting course. That is a half-day course on optimizing value and minimizing complications in adult spinal deformity surgery, the roles of teams, risk stratification, and technology. So we'll hear about the importance of teams and how to build those teams. We'll hear about risk stratification and the machine learning that has gone into the development of that track, and technology, spinal navigation and robotics, and how that is being developed to assist us in caring for our patients safely. And then finally, we'll have another session concurrently on non-fusion scoliosis correction in the treatment of AIS, fundamentals and future. And that will be one that we will roll out that will include vertebral body tethering, as well as the posterior dynamic distraction. Both are techniques that have only recently been received regulatory approval in the United States, and they have regulatory approval in other markets as well, in the EU, for example. So I think you'll find these to be excellent half-day courses, plenty of room as well for case discussions and interactive discussion with the audience. And these will also be archived. So I just would like to thank my committee and so many surgeons from our society, the SRS staff who've worked very hard in putting this program together. And Lindsay and her team have done an amazing job as well under the leadership of Dr. Sponseller. A final note, I'd like to let you know that there'll be another live podcast that will be discussing select papers, and that will be offered and run by Jason Brooks and Jeff Mullins. Thank you. It'll be great to interact with you all virtually, and look forward to seeing you in the near future live.
That was great. Thanks very much, Lindsay and Baron. You've set up an amazing program for us. We're looking forward to tuning in live and continuing on with our self-paced learning throughout the year. Fantastic program. I really appreciate you both joining us. And of course, stay tuned for the upcoming second episode of SRS Podcast.
The Scoliosis Research Society is a nonprofit professional organization made up of physicians and allied health personnel. Their primary focus is on providing continuing medical education for healthcare professionals and on funding and supporting research in spinal deformities. Please visit srs.org for further information. Scoliosis Dialogues and SRS Podcast is supported in part by a grant from Medtronic.